It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome, everybody, to another edition of our Daily Gun Show. Attempt is to come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern and chat about guns, not necessarily the news of the day. In fact, whatever episode this actually is, 800-something episodes, we very rarely talk about the news of the day unless it's critical. This is designed to be an alternative, a way for nerds to talk about gun nerd stuff of all different flavors. So we've got some links out to a couple of people this evening. And Gizzard joined us from Kansas. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Always. And with your weird schedule, it worked out good for the Daily Gun Show. Now, is this okay for you to be up this late? Like, this is because of the time you go to work, or should you be going to bed because you got a quick turnaround?
It's a quarter after 11 at night, and I don't get up until 8 o'clock in the morning, so I'm in pretty good shape.
Okay, but we don't want to pull a pancake marathon here. So I don't know if you were you there yesterday? You were there for a good chunk of it, for sure.
For part of it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I only got in towards the end. I thought it was going to be the end, and then it turned out to be not even the middle, I guess. It turned out to be 5-something hours. So that's kind of neat. And one of the aspects that live conversations, at least, I don't want to say foster, because I don't always do that, but at least they have the potential to turn into. This is Daily Gun Show number 8-something. I quit doing them on the regular right around 8:50. And I think I had it figured out that 899 would happen way before Christmas, but it wasn't quite the Gun Rights Policy Conference, so I don't know what to call it. And I haven't had the resources to be real steady or stable with it, but thanks to Gary for jumping in. I kind of set it up tonight after a last-minute chat with John Crump. Clover jumped in on that. Sarah from Hold My Guns. Budget was in there, Obnoxious was in there, and we were doing it on the duck. And everybody knows duck is the most snooty and least inclusive of all the poultries. And they only let 6 people hang out in the duck, including the little snooty duck. So we're here on the chamber, so more people can join. Anyway, John had a show on the duck earlier, chatting about the 2A rally. Of course, that's coming up in November, and there's lots of stuff to talk about there on other shows. We can talk about it here if you want. And then, we had, that was actually the only topic of that show, but while it was running, we had Trigger Warning 2A happens tonight on Monday nights. That's Antonia Aquifer and Nina, I can't remember her last name. I know it, but I'm going to butcher it. But anyway, they do a podcast on Mondays called Trigger Warning 2A out of Colorado, and they had Maj Dre from Philadelphia on today, and Maj is always good, so I didn't really get to listen to that. In fact, if Gary wouldn't have jumped in here, I'd be listening to that right now. So I got to watch it live and contribute to the content, to the text conversation a little bit, but I didn't want to ignore the chat I was in either. So I don't know if anybody was around for either of those. Prior to that, Matt had his chat, and prior to that, Caliber Corner is on Monday, so Travis was doing that out of Nebraska, which is a state close to Kansas, I guess. And they were featuring the 7.62 by 39. So if anybody wants to talk about any of those topics, we can. Otherwise, didn't look like Dead Horse said he'll jump in a bit. Gary should make chicken tube. Do chickens even use tubes? Chickens have been around longer than tubes, I think.
I don't think chickens do.
Ducks are notoriously lazy, so they're definitely going to use a tube if they can. Chickens, on the other hand, I think they're more of an independent poultry.
Yes, they are.
So,
by the way, Nebraska is the home of Hornady.
Making that clear right off the bat. So we've got 10 people at just 3 thumbs. So right off the bat, that tells me as the host, this is a group of people that aren't that interactive. So we'll see if we can't hook them and get them going here. I don't know, say things like Dianne Feinstein. She's quite a package. Stuff like that. Let's see if that gets them going.
Come on, people. Wake up.
At Bloomberg, he's got some real credibility there. Real honesty, real integrity, don't you think?
Yeah, he does. He does good things with that money.
Hard-earned money, well spent. Leave it that way. All right, well, so I don't know what's happening tonight. So I don't know how long we're going to go. I'm 1 hour and 32 minutes into a 1 hour and 53-minute movie called The Card That Everyone Throws Away Out of a Deck of Cards, right? And everybody tells me I'm missing the last part that's only good, or the only good part of the movie, and it was definitely mud. It was the worst movie ever up until 1 hour and 32 minutes, and it's still not good. But I can hear you. Yeah, I didn't like that. I don't like this movie so far. So if it's anybody wants to chat about that, did you? I asked you, you didn't see it. Anybody else seen it? And I guess we have to wait because there's massive lag. There is kind of a lag on the tube, I think, actually. I think we checked it out and it was pretty long.
Yeah, several seconds.
I guess we used to have a lag on Hangouts, but Hangouts is a different type of tech. I can't even imagine how much scales of magnitude YouTube must have over Duck or Tube. Tube is even smaller, right? So, yeah. Much
TDR.
big difference in scale. Anyway, I don't have anything else to talk about. I don't really want to talk about everything we've been chatting about all day. That's boring. I could talk about the Almanac. I haven't talked about that yet today. And I don't know if I've talked about it to the people that might watch this show. And I shouldn't assume that people are watching the Daily Gun Show necessarily keep track of all the other stuff that we're doing out there. So while the Daily Gun Show is one of our projects and it's something that I have interest in working on, I literally don't have resources. It is, of all my projects, it is one of the projects that I appreciate most and I think has some of the most potential. But, okay. Yeah, send him a link. I thought he was going to sleep. But
Okay.
I don't even bother sending some people who don't show up often. Like on a Friday or something, I'll send like more people a link. But if it's not like a regular, I don't usually send you a link. So don't feel like you can always ask for a link. I can always ignore it, but I'm not going to be offended if you ask for a link. I just don't bother to send them to people who I think are sleeping. I don't even know where I was going. So any patches? What was that supposed to mean? I can hear you breathing is the tube. The tube has this really pleasant, not creepy noise that happens whenever somebody texts in here. So if I text the word "whew," I get it to do it. Oh, it doesn't happen when I do it. It only happens when other people do it to me, I guess. You heard it, probably.
Maybe you have to have it closed.
Oh, no, that's probably it, huh? So let me close it. Anyway, so that's what you hear that. Biden isn't in here. Mike and us.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, that's like the Darth text chat of GunTube or whatever, the chamber. So it's not jumped in.
I just figured Gizzard was breathing down your neck.
No, that's what it sounds like. But,
That would be Obnoxious One out there. He does that kind of stuff.
for these shows, Gary and I use a different microphone. We're not sharing the same microphone for these shows. But yeah, I was talking about the Almanac. So I guess the people that watch other stuff may not necessarily pay attention to the things we got. With the Daily Gun Show is something I like to do, and I will eventually get back to doing it on a regular. In fact, I'm kind of done. I'm retiring from 2A, and once this rally happens, I will be able to retire, and then I can go talk about AK stuff and bullets and that kind of nerdy stuff. Talk to these guys about reloading, and start challenging them on their reloading tactics and whatnot. But till then, we've got other projects going on, and let's see, we got Gun Channels, I suppose, which is a community that was sort of a collaboration back in 2013, and everybody who was associated with it took their money and left. So I'm running it now, and it's nothing to run. It's just a place for people to hang out and work together. So we got the Gun Channels project. We've got the Daily Gun Show. What else am I missing? We've got the Gear Websites, which is a store. Originally, selling stuff on eBay and things works fine. Having a store, though, was a multifaceted project. One, to sell stuff, obviously, but two, to explore how to sell stuff so that others who are out here efforting nonprofits and state level organizations, individuals with good ambitions and whatnot. Funding is a portion of what we do. We're capitalists. We're not socialists. We don't just have to fill out a grant form and get money from the government or something. So most people that are doing this stuff are doing it on their spare time as a hobby, and that's great. You can have whatever hobbies you want, but I want a world where Second Amendment advocacy is done by professionals, done by people who are able to put as much effort into it as they have passion for. And if finances are preventing people from doing that, which in my experience has been a pretty key factor, then we can solve that by making alternate methods of funding, which is my preference, or just offering as much assistance as possible with the traditional methods. And one of the traditional methods is selling something with a logo on it, or selling some interesting widget until somebody rips it off or whatever from you, if it's a new idea or clever or something. So if that's the route you want to go with a project and you're interested in working on a store, that's one of the reasons I do the Gear website store. Every once in a while I'll change the platform it's on, either by necessity or by just to try something new, see how the internet's working. And I'm interested in sharing all that. So we do 2A workshops and stuff, but the store brings in money and it keeps us fresh with the internet. If you want to think about the internet as a set of tasks or skills, working with money is a whole nother level than a lot of other stuff. A lot of stuff on the internet has very little consequence. As soon as you start working with money, it starts getting serious. And that's at least one of the ways I keep up with that end of the internet, like how to keep up with security and awareness tech-wise. A store can really be good for that. Otherwise, though, a store is good for bringing in money and keeping people motivated and interested in stuff and people working together. So that's one of the reasons we have the Gear website store. In fact, we just got done. In fact, one of the reasons I'm able to do this show is because we're working with Yankee. Yankee's a crazy dude out of Washington doing crazy things for the last 9 years. And one of the things he does is motivate, 300,000 people to do stuff like raise $100,000 to defend Washington State, when, let's just say, the entire Second Amendment community watched Washington State get pummeled by Bloomberg and question Yankees tactics, question Yankees ethics, question Yankees motivation, question Yankee, everything about Yankee. Feel free. I question shit on Yankee all the time. But Yankee motivated a bunch of people to raise $100,000, which hasn't solved nothing, but it's pretty interesting. And part of that respect that I have for him means that I will help him with projects, because I know the guy and he doesn't do things just for the money. He does it so he can raise money and use that money for other things. So one of the things we do at the store also, I guess, is assist, right? So we help get a bunch of stuff out to Yankees, Patreons and them. And of course, Yankee pays for shipping, and that gets taken care of. He doesn't drop that on me. And he gives me a little cut. He gives me a handling fee, which basically allows me to breathe once in a while and do shows like this one. So the store has multiple, I guess, facets to it. In addition, we got the Minuteman University project. I was on Charles Heller's show last night, yesterday morning, I guess, Sunday mornings. And Charles is the media coordinator for the Arizona Citizens Defense League. In fact, he's one of the 4 or 5 founders of the Arizona Citizens Defense League. So in 2015, when they made me the social media, whatever the hell I was supposed to be, I got fired the other day on that. I was supposed to be the social media guy. I had one meeting with them and we had a whole bunch of ideas and they went nowhere. So a few months later, I took some of those ideas that were being ignored and turned one of them, Minuteman University, into Minuteman University, and took it under my wing and kept working on it, because I think it's valid. We as Second Amendment people that are interested, aware, we don't necessarily have a resource so we can just go find stuff like a Wikipedia for 2A. So that's what I tried to build there, is a twofold thing, a resource that offers history, like data, resources, and then a section for skill set, for building skills, learning new skills. Everything from working with the tools like cameras and phones and computers, to working with the software and the social media platforms and the internet things that let us communicate, to the theory behind it. Who do you want to do business with? Do you want to align yourself with exploiters who come along from some other industry, see that these people in the gun industry are suckers, come in to milk us dry, and then are fickle and willing to leave the first sign there's a problem? Or do you want to work with people who are less able to bring you return on your investment, but more dedicated to the cause long term. So things like that even we'll talk about in university, and the chats and the workshops that we do affiliated with that. I think the only other thing I would call another major project, well, I guess there's other major projects. We have the AK-47 thing, we got the gun show loophole tour, but anyway, I guess I was getting into all the different projects we're doing. The one that we've got on the drawing board now is the Almanac, the Shooter's Almanac, which is the culmination of the Minuteman University concept, except putting it on paper, and hopefully you can build anything you want online. It doesn't mean anybody's going to use it necessarily. So hopefully get some of that content, some of that data, some of that information that's been accumulated over the last couple of years, put it into a format that's hopefully colorful, useful, interesting enough to look at it a few times or know that it's there, and then have it be on enough people's shelves or bookshelves or drawers or something that when they're doing content, when they're creating content, when they're having conversations, they're stronger, better, smarter, more useful as Second Amendment advocates. And then ideally, somebody's going to figure out, somebody who's already a printer, somebody who's already smarter than me is going to figure out how many things I did wrong in this almanac and make something better and more useful, and we'll be stronger as a community. So if you want to be part of all that, I do have a project running this month up till the 26th, and we can chat about that more, but I've just been chatting forever. Snob jumped in, Obnoxious jumped in, and Gary's in here, so now I get to kick back because I've been chatting for like 3 hours. Thanks for joining in, everybody. Where do we want to take the show tonight?
Hey, G, how you doing tonight?
That wasn't what he asked.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to be polite. If you don't want me to be polite, I'll just be me. So
I remember listening to radio back in the day. So I'm trying to remember now. This was way before internet, and when I was a youngin' and before I had a car, and I was maybe probably in junior high. I don't know how soft, whatever you are when you don't have a car yet in high school. Must have been those years because I remember we'd have like scout meetings and stuff, and we would listen to the radio, and we would be listening to these, I don't know what to call them. They were like evening radio. So they maybe were alternatives to the boring sitcoms, or like alternatives to watching your parents watch the news or something. On the radio, there was like these DJs, and there was like this guy and a girl. There was like another guy. This not quite Stern. You know, they were just funny, but they weren't abusing nobody. They weren't doing practical jokes or anything mean. They were just kind of having fun. It's almost like a radio version of a sitcom.
I didn't realize you were as old as Gary and lived through the days before TV.
No, but if you're having a meeting,
well, I didn't realize you were old.
You're not going to watch TV.
I didn't realize Snob was as old as Gary until, I spent a text chat with them, with the two of them talking farming like a couple of 100-year-old people.
But I was setting the stage too long there. But back in the day of the call-in talk shows, I guess, you would call into them, and there was a couple of them where they would just get, like, when you'd call in and go, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? Like, they would basically, that would be like cutting the tie or like dropping the slime. That was like the cue that would get them off, like get them going, because that would drive them nuts. That like, because basically, think about it, every call-in show you've ever heard, the person that calls in goes, hey, how you doing? Like, if the host of the live show, you know what I'm saying, like, needs to be introduced, like, come on, guy, you know that you're here for a question, ask the damn question. So
first time or long time listener, first time caller.
First time caller, yes. Let's take it in a serious direction. Let's talk about negligent discharges. It's a subject that's near and dear to my electrical outlet tonight.
So you obviously either, one, don't care about your channel at all, or two, never watched YouTube before, or three, are trying to prove something. So why would you have the balls or the unawareness to post a video about such an embarrassing, dangerous situation?
Because it was an embarrassing, dangerous situation that could happen to any single one of us. So you can call it the balls to post it if you want, because I have been told that by a couple people. But like I said, I was lucky enough that I followed, most of the rules of gun safety, and it didn't hurt me. It scared the hell out of me. It put a hole in my drywall, and that's the extent of it. But like I said, it could happen to anyone. It's happened to a lot of people. And even on my video, I think Dead Horse hit it spot on. There's, two types of gun owners. There's those who have had a negligent discharge and those who will. Because
there's also those that are standing next to something that's happened. And that's because I hear what you're saying. I'm just going to add that third one. This is your first time you've had something like this happen?
Yes.
I think you said that.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a third one. Imagine standing next to somebody when something like that happened. You've immediately got a relationship with that person that's like
that you don't
at the same
time, want.
Like you could. I don't know. No, I'm not going to say that at all. But I mean, think about it. When it happens to yourself, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about. So if you're down, we'll talk about it. How long did it take you after your first one? How long did it take you to calm down, start thinking about stuff again? Like actually thinking about stuff besides all the stuff that rushed through your mind?
Sarge asked me about this. It was, he asked me, how long did it take you to realize that you weren't shot? And
right, exactly. It's sort of like the ringing in your ears. You don't know that it's happening. It's just that at some point it becomes perceivable that you're now not hearing the ringing. Like, oh, the ringing went away. Like at some point you realize that you just got done with something that you were not aware of. Like so more than just getting shot. Because I'm assuming, what happened? Where'd that go? What do I do now? What happened? Who heard that? Like you got a million things.
Right. Happen. It took me probably a good 15 seconds to realize what the hell had just happened. And then it was probably
it was like out of nowhere. Like you were not expecting it. And not like, I'm going to slowly pull the trigger until I hear the thing that's about to start.
Right. It was not expected, and it should have been, because I was being careless. I was being stupid. I was trying a new system for doing a gun review. I was trying to get a little more in-depth, a little more comprehensive with it. And what I had done was I had weighed the gun empty, and then I put in a full magazine and another round to simulate, because I didn't put one in the chamber. I put a full magazine and then another round on the scale to simulate what it would be like to have carrying it loaded. So I had the loaded weight. And then I took it off the scale, put it over on my bench, and I was going down my checklist that I was writing down, my outline. And the next thing on there was trigger reset. So I cocked the hammer, pulled the trigger, which was fine because there wasn't a round in the magazine, or there wasn't a round in the chamber, because I'd been smart enough not to put one in the chamber when I weighed it. And then I pulled the hammer, or I pulled the slide, I manipulated the slide so that it would reset the hammer to check the trigger reset, just to see what it was going to be like when I actually did go to film the video. And then I pulled the trigger.
Oh, so you weren't filming the video?
No, I was not filming the video. I almost wish I was. And if I had been, I would have put that in my video as well. No,
and then you'd be the laughing stock of the internet for the rest of the time.
Well, if that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be. But hopefully
it's easy to blow that off. But I literally I had a conversation privately with Tex Grebner with a couple. I was one of the people he consulted before he posted the video about I just shot myself. So I know Tex Grebner. I've had a personal conversation with him before he decided, as he was deciding to post that video. I don't know if you guys know who I'm talking about, but the consequences of that were significant, to say the least. So again, there's a lot of stuff we can go with that. So I don't want to interrupt you too much. Go ahead.
No, I manipulated the slide and pulled the trigger with a live round in it, and I shot my wall.
Right on. But here's another way to look at it. You're working with a thing that a lot of people work with. There's very few people, some will admit it, some won't. Very few people that work around anything that don't have accidents, negligence, consequences, especially things that have quick reactions. So, it can happen in electronics. People get shocked. There's all different kinds of things. But the other thing is, if you were completely negligent, it would have happened more than once in your lifetime. You're not a baby. Number two, you were following all the other rules. So the constant understanding and I don't want to say application, but like obeying those rules, whatever the word is for that, like obviously paid off. And I suspect there's no way to know, of course, you're hypothetical, but if there was someone else in the room, there's no way in the possibly you would have ever been so casual as to do that with the muzzle pointed in a safe, without the muzzle pointed in a safe direction, and knowing what's your target behind it. And right, so there are 4 or 5 rules depending on who you talk to. As long as you are only breaking one, something bad can happen without massive consequences. So as much as you want to beat yourself up and you feel like you have some sort of obligation to beat yourself up in front of everybody, don't feel that way. It's not necessary, and it'll pass. And yeah, you think about all the stuff you did right.
Exactly. And that was my whole purpose in putting it out there, was that people could see that this can happen anyway. Now, I'm not a big channel by any means, but I do handle quite a few guns. I do shoot quite a bit, and it happened to me. And part of it was complacency, part of it was a new routine, and part of it was carelessness.
Part of it is you're from Illinois. Part of it is you have been into Chicago and you were probably mad, and that's just a reflex from those people. So how before you made a decision to put it online, you're like, oh, this startled me. I need to capitalize on it. How can I become famous?
Like I said, it took me about 15 seconds to realize what the hell had happened. It took me another 30 seconds or so to realize how the hell it happened. And it took me about a minute before I was willing to pick the gun back up and drop the magazine. And about another minute after that I realized that there was still a round in the chamber. And then I decided to make the video. So if you see in my video, I am still shaking in that video. I am still shaking. But I made the decision right away that if it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody, and that I needed to share it.
Right on. So I'm going to offer this. Anytime anything happens, because I've had situations where people have asked me, this happened to me, altercation. This happened to me, I've seen somebody. This happened to me, I don't know if I should say, right? You can always record. You can always immediately record. You can always immediately archive. You can photograph and just get raw footage, B-roll, whatever, right? You can narrate. You can always do something, pause. Very few things need to be reacted immediately, right? Or need to be acted on immediately. Pause, edit perhaps, have someone else take a look at it, consult, and then act. So just let that, I mean, I'm not saying you did anything right or wrong. I'm just saying to let people know, like, there's time, right? There's time. You had what was the word, stressful, whatever incident or whatever, but it is what it is. Who cares? The consequences are probably not going to be dire or anything, and there's no like obligation for everyone to have consequences or anything. But let me ask, since you've had it up for a few hours now, besides me and Sarge, what kind of feedback have you gotten?
Pretty much all positive. A lot of glad you're okay. I've had 4 or 5 people tell me about their negligent discharge. I haven't had anybody come out and say, man, you're a fucking idiot for doing it, because I think most of the people in our community realize it can happen. And like I said, there's a good portion of people it has happened to.
Well, let's get back into that. But there's people that are going to tell you you're an idiot for it happening. There's people that are going to tell you that you're an idiot for talking about it at all. And then there's people that are going to tell you you're an idiot for sharing it publicly. And then you're probably going to find other idiots. I mean, I don't know. I've never posted a video like that. So you'll tell me in the future if there's more that come around. But when you're saying everybody were they focused on the fact that you posted about it? Well, I don't know what
it was pretty much everybody has been either glad you're okay and let it go there, or holy shit, glad you're okay, or glad you're okay, I also had one. So I haven't had anybody tell me I'm an idiot in any form yet on it. And if it happens, if somebody tells me I'm an idiot for doing it, they're absolutely right. I was an idiot for doing it. Because that's why it's a negligent discharge and not an accidental discharge. I was an idiot.
Okay, well let me ask it this way then, because that's a better way to look at it. So if someone, when, it's not going to be if, eventually someone will. So it's going to be when. So when they complain, you think it's going to be complaining because that you had the event, or again that you shared it? And the idea of sharing it is that, I guess the idea is that this is a secret. Like we're supposed to be infallible, or like any ammunition you give the antis is ammunition you're giving the antis. So I guess the exaggerated example there would be if everyone felt either an obligation or responsibility or whatever it's called to like share when something like that happens. Imagine how many videos there'd be of like that, and then what would happen. So it's a slippery slope, and that's a bad argument, but
I mean, yeah, that could happen. There could, the antis are going to use whatever ammunition they can get for anything. So I looked at it as it was a teachable moment, not just for me, but for others. And like I said, I don't have a huge channel. I don't. I've got a decent sized channel. I've got a decent sized reach. But if I can make one person more aware and keep one person from having a negligent discharge, then I've affected that one person. If I can keep 10 from doing it, then it's 10 times as good. So I could have very, very easily just kept it to myself and, had my little bit of hurt pride completely to myself. Nobody would have known, never would have had to tell anybody, and gotten away with it, if you want to call it getting away with it. But that doesn't help anybody but me.
Now, I hear what you're saying. You're looking at the bright side. You're looking at it optimistically. But what if someone goes, "Oh, that reinforces that these are too dangerous for me. Like that guy's competent, and he's suggesting that happened to him out of just carelessness. I'm careless to begin with, and now I'm not trying to jinx you or mess with you, but there's other sides to that. It's not just only win-win. There's potential that, and those people will never talk to you. They'll never say, thanks for telling me, and I'm never going to get a gun now. They're just never going to get a gun now. If they saw your channel, and if it was like on Good Morning America. That's the other thing, and I'm not trying to mess with you, but you can have the smallest channel with one video on it, and if Good Morning America or Oprah plays it tomorrow, guess how many people have seen it, right? But
well,
it would have been a lot different. I think we'd have a different conversation if you had imagine if I'm counseling, let's say a traumatic thing or something. Like I've had people who asked if it was a good idea, not me specifically, like somebody calls me because I'm their counselor, but I've been in a lot of live chats before. So people come in a live chat, maybe an off air, and go, this happened, should I post it? Right. And so, again, is it always under the time of stress? Like once you've had a bad thing happen, is that the best time to make decisions long term? And then I don't know. And again, I'm not trying to stifle nothing. I mean, and it's a thing that happens and we can acknowledge it. It's like saying car crashes. Like cars are great. They crash once in a while. Horrible stuff happens when they crash. Like many people are affected. Lives are changed from cars crashing. But obviously there's so many good things about it. We're not going to focus on that. But at the same time, if we never talk about car crashing, there'd never be seatbelts, right? There'd never be turn signals. Like if we always ignored the bad stuff. I don't know if that.
Well, right, and that's why
snob off. Like, look, snob left because of this topic. I don't know what's going on.
Well, and that's why I actually had to stop filming, and I had to look up the 4 rules of gun safety because I could not. I was in that point, and I could not name them at the point. So I had to stop filming, and I made sure that I got that in at the end, because that's what kept it from being worse than it was. And if somebody wants to take if this guy's got a gun channel and he's he's supposed to be experienced with this, and it happened to him, and I would be, yes, it did. And it wasn't worse than it absolutely had to be when it happened to me, because I was following the other rules.
So it's basically, I would consider it to be like smashing up a back fender, knocking out a light when you're backing up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between having an accident when you're going 75 miles an hour due to negligence, because you just don't understand the significance of the situation, and you're drifting between lanes at 75 miles an hour in traffic, and there's other people, at risk. That's one type of driver. And then there's the driver who has never had an accident on the street yet, as he's backing in, or as she's backing in, because it's sexist to think all bad drivers are men. I don't want to be sexist. So as she's driving into her parking spot, she smashes a tree or hits one of them yellow concrete obstacles that just exist in parking lots for no reason sometimes, and scrape some paint, knock out a plastic part light or whatever, dent a what do you call it, those things, bumpers, right? And then you got a completely manageable car. It's still drivable. You probably could ignore the damage forever and no one would care. As long as you look at the car from the other angle, no one's ever going to tell there's damage there. It has no mechanical influence at all. No other person could have been hurt. The reason that it even happened is because you were completely satisfied you were alone in this well-lit parking lot, and you literally just took a misunderstanding of the closeness to this thing, or the angle that the car was going to do. Maybe even the tire popped as you were backing in, and because of that, something shifted, and an accident happened. That's basically the equivalent here. When someone is completely capable, and there's no question as to their awareness and level of respect to the operation that's going on, and then they have a small issue, kind of like if you're fine, never had a problem with a gun, and then one day you drop it and there's a big scratch on it. Are you a idiot? Like, you can't handle guns or whatever, because you dropped one once? No. So this kind of thing I would consider about the equivalent, and that would be someone to judge someone who got a little, the accident I just described there, a blemish on their vehicle based on parking in a hurry, or not paying that much attention while parking in an empty parking lot, comparing that with a drunk driver, or that person who's texting while they're going 75 miles an hour with other people in other lanes. That's not equivalent, right? So this would be someone suggesting that this person who's negligent once is somehow equivalent with no one should have guns, or guns are too dangerous. I think that's something that's worth, I don't know, it's something that's never addressed. Let's put it that way. I don't know if it's worth addressing. I'm not going to go that far, but I'll definitely say that it's never addressed. And is it ever good to have nothing addressed ever? Like, to have things in silence?
No. That, like I said, if I kept it completely to myself, nobody else has the opportunity to learn from it. I learn from it, but nobody else has the opportunity, and maybe nobody else will learn from it. But I've at least put it out there, and they have the opportunity, and that's all I can do.
Now Snob came back.
I got my hamster or my cow on the hamster wheel, cranking my internet, so hopefully it's better.
All right, so having it by yourself is one thing, and then, like I say, having it in front of somebody or in front of multiple people, because that happens all the time too. People know, they talk about it, I guess, but it happens at matches, I think, more than anything, because you've got lots of manipulations going on, lots of people, their attention is on whatever the game they just, strategize the route through their stage or whatever. They've thought about which targets they're going to hit or when they're going to do their mag change. So their minds are on other things. And now they're manipulating out of muscle memory, as far as show and clear and that kind of stuff, getting ready for a stage, that kind of stuff they've done a billion times in practice. And that's when NDs happen in front of the ones I've experienced have been when at a range or something. So again, you get 4 or 5 gun safety laws or whatever, and as long as 3 of them are not broken, then you're fine. What's scary is when it happens often enough, and I don't know where this might be. I don't know, like the sloppiest competition shooting ever, or maybe cops, because cops get to be sloppy. Or at least they have a reputation of becoming sloppy. But I can't imagine where anybody would be okay with the occasional ND as long as it's only one row is broken, but then worried about when two rows are, you know what I mean? Like there's not that many people that have shifted that far, but
No.
I've definitely met people, when you're, let's say there's military units that shoot more rounds of ammo each year than the Marines. Then you take the entire Marine Corps, the amount of ammo that they shoot through guns in a year, there's units that shoot more than that. So those people probably don't have too many NDs, but when they have an ND, they don't care because half the NDs are probably happening in hallways in some country we can't pronounce. So when they do happen, they're all aware of it. They've all got stuff, you know what I mean? Like those are happening. It's like a construction crew having like a problem with a saw or something. Like they're round saws. They care, they're dealing with millions of saws. They don't care when a saw has a problem. When somebody's in their garage working with their only saw and it has a problem, it's a bigger deal. Anyway, so now I'll jump back in. Gary hasn't said nothing. Gary's been very quiet on this one.
I'm always quiet.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, I was letting Obnoxious do the talking. He's one with the story. And we found out about it pretty much as soon as it happened.
Well, some of us didn't have good enough internet to get the picture for a while, so he was really confused what was going on.
I saw the picture, and the first thing that came to my mind was, what is he doing, trying to put a cable through the wall, and why did he put the hole there?
You should have just told the wife, mouse ate a hole there. Gotta get a cat.
No, I told the wife when she got home because it's a teachable experience for her, and she just kind of looked at me and she said, "Okay."
See, mine would have said something about life insurance, but
She was surprised. She was a little shocked, but there's no histrionics about it. There was, you're okay. Yep, I'm okay. There's a hole in the drywall. That's it. And we went about our night. So
That you need a new bench.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bench has just got a little chunk out of it. It's fine.
And a new
business
tech
cards,
mat.
on the other hand.
Yeah. New cards, new tech mat.
So now when you're looking, back at the plan that you had for the video or whatever, you were kind of going through, it sounds like getting ready to do a video or like coming up with a system for a review. You could just move the system to where dry firing is before you check loaded weight, right? Like do loaded weight last or something in the process.
Yeah, or I could, double and triple check the firearm instead of setting it on the bench as I'm going through my checklist.
Yes, this thing.
Or you could just set the magazine next to it.
Yeah, I could do that too.
This is a 1911. So, do you press check your 1911s?
No.
Does anybody press check their 1911s in here?
Nope.
Anybody
I thought that was an old school thing.
We got 15 people, only 7 thumbs, but there's still 15 people out there, maybe.
Well, I won't say I've never done it. I have.
Well, okay, everybody has press check, but I mean, as a habit, like, is that the way that you chamber check by press checking? And does everybody know what we're talking about? We're talking about on a semi-auto, holding it in your firing hand usually, and then taking your non-firing hand and usually just pinching somewhere up front. A lot of times, stupid companies will put serrations up there that seem like it's supposed to be done. Anyway, you pinch it up somewhere front above the dust cover on the slide, and then you just barely pull back. And the idea is that you're going to pull back just enough for the extractor to pull the case out halfway, but not eject it, so that when you let it go, somehow that doesn't mess with the mechanics, and you check to see if you've got a round in the chamber. But in real life, when you just ease a slide forward like that, you jimmied up the extractor and you've just screwed up the mechanism that's actually designed to happen with gusto. So it's just a dumb process. But the reason I ask is just to ask the next question. So if you don't press check, when you chamber check, do you stick a pinky in there? Since it's a 1911, they don't have like a clear indication that they're empty. Do you stick a finger in?
Not generally. I generally make a pretty good visual check.
Okay, because usually there's two lines. If you've been a cop or done anything at night, so security work or military or something, if you've ever had to check loaded or not, check condition with no light or low light, you'll have to stick a finger in there. And then there's people that have been trained by those people, and they'll stick a finger in there. So it's also possible for an issue like a squib or other failure of the propellant or the projectile to blow carbon. Have you ever seen like just a smoky blowback in a firearm before? Almost like a black powder mess. That can happen in smokeless powder, and that can completely blacken a case, especially if something happens in the round before and it blows the smoky stuff back into the round that has yet to be stripped off the magazine, blows that carbon all over that round, then it seats that round home. That's the worst. That's the most dangerous situation, is if there is a bunch of dirt and gunk in there. It, physically or visually impairs your ability to see the brass. Of course, Murphy's Law, that's going to be like the least shiny piece of brass first, right? But anyway, that would be a reason why people stick their fingers in there. So is that something completely new to you, the idea of sticking your pinky finger into a chamber every time you check and clear? Has anybody heard of that before?
Oh, I've heard it and
Yeah, I've done it.
Okay, so two reasons. Again, you've either had to work your gun at night, so you have no eyes to check it, or you're blind, right? Patriot might do it.
Patriot. I've seen Patriot do it every time.
So
yes.
There's people that'll do it because he might be doing that from the Marines, is what I'm saying. There's people that have to check their guns at night or underwater in the black, in the rain, whatever, right? You're just not going to always be able to change it. So there's those people, and then there's people that either been trained by those people or people that had an ND or stood next to somebody with an ND. But there's definitely a reason why people jam their little pinky fingers in there, completely uninterested if something's going to happen and their pinky finger is going to be lost, because they know their pinky finger is insignificant to what the alternative is, right? But every time I hear somebody go, I'm not going to stick my pinky finger in there because it's going to hurt my pinky finger if this little tiny spring snaps on it like a mouse trap. I'm like, okay, you've never experienced a negative discharge before, because the other consequences of not checking are much worse.
Yeah, smashed pinky's a lot better than a hole in your foot.
Oh yeah, or worse. Oh, yeah, so much worse. So that was my piece, is just to ask if that's something that you think you're going to be doing. Then, like, I can't imagine it'll be a long time, or you'd have to get like really, what's the word? Like, you'd have to just get so discouraged to, like, after that, to not, after an ND, to not be like ultra, what's the word? Like ultra sensitive to that, or like heightened awareness to chambers being empty. Just the tendency, like, you've experienced it. There's no way to tell a kid, like, hey, be careful because this might be loud and super dangerous. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right? Totally different significance once you've experienced it, I think. And I have experienced it. So when you're sitting inside of a room and no one expects it and a gun goes off, I guess I was going to say, when you're in a room and that happens, and there's other people in the room, you have an instant relationship with those people. Because number one, you could have just killed them or they could have killed you from negligence. Literally, nobody was trying to kill anybody. You often are best friends. Someone could have just killed somebody right there. So that's number one. And then as soon as that goes away, everybody knows that they just did this somewhere. Was that at the range? Was that in somebody's house? Was that with somebody's wife or mom or kids or whatever? Like, you have a different relationship with the people around an ND than you'll ever have with anybody else. So again, when you're by yourself, I guess you just have that echo or that memory. I suspect it'd be a long time before something like that ever happens to you again, if it ever could happen again to you.
Oh yeah, it'll be a long time before this moves down the list of things I'm concerned about.
All right, well, it's your topic. Do you want to keep going? Poke Snob a little bit, poke Gary. There's somebody out there called G something, who I've never heard of before. Gunpowder's out there. Ozzy, if anybody wants a link, let us know. There's links on gun channels. Pants is out there. Or do we want to take it in a different direction?
Well, that was about it for me. I mean, I've given the story, we've discussed it. I mean,
do you think there should be a law that requires you to inform the law enforcement when this happens?
No, I don't think it's. I don't think it's law enforcement's business. It's between me and whoever else might have been around on, it happening. And like I said, it was just me. I don't think there should be any.
Is there an obligation that if you're driving your car and especially in your own property, but if you're driving your car and inadvertently you run over something, you have to is there an obligation to tell anybody about that?
Only if it's somebody else's property.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a very good point. But yeah, I mean, assuming it's just, there's nothing that except for another, like you saying, person hurting somebody. But I don't know, ones are going to get their own thing. So I'll be curious if you want to look at it in a year or something. Once you put that video up, you're in a unique situation. You're not the biggest channel in the world. If Military Arms Channel put up a video like that, that would be a whole different set of comments, right?
Yes.
So I don't know, somebody who's like like that Voda guy. Everybody hates that guy anyway. That guy puts up that video, whole different set of circumstances, different comments and stuff. So I'd be curious to see after some amount of time if you feel like going back to it, checking out some of the comments, because again, you've created something there that is fairly unique. You're going to get the potential for comments that other videos would never bring.
Well, and that's I don't know if that's what I'm hoping for. It's not like I started out my day and go, it'd be nice if I had an ND so I could make a video of it. I definitely didn't start my day out like that. And, as I said in the video, it's a video I've never in my life thought I would have to make. And I obviously didn't have to make it, but it happened. And I hope that it can help somebody else. I'm not looking for sympathy for it. I'm not looking for, a pat on the back for putting the video out or having the balls to put it out or anything. It's just, I put it out there because it happened to me. It could happen to somebody else. And if it can help, if it can keep somebody else from doing it, then that's all I'm looking for.
I want to lighten the mood just a little bit on this subject and say that imagine if it had been 9mm. I mean, 45 didn't even go through 2 layers of drywall, but man, 9mm probably would have went to, the next town over.
Well, it sounds like it went. We were holding it at the table, standing or sitting?
I was standing, and basically at the angle it was at, it went through the tech mat, hit the work table, and came back up through the tech mat, went through about half a box of business cards, and then into the wall. And then it went through the first layer of drywall and hit the second layer of drywall and fell down into the cavity between the walls. So it didn't go completely through the cards. It clipped them at the very top of them. So
but I'm saying, when it hit the table, it came out, bounced off the table at like a 45-degree angle, like a pretty steep angle. It wasn't like it skipped. It's like it looked like it almost changed direction, like a much of an angle.
Yeah, it basically ricocheted off the.
Yeah, ricochet. That's the word. So
yeah,
that had to lose a ton of energy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's not like you shot straight at a piece of drywall through some cards and it lost all its energy. It lost it in that angle.
It lost it in the table.
It's up to you if you want to chat about that, Honda. You got a link, but I'm not going to bring that up if you don't want to bring it up. But yeah, that's a good point. I've seen NDs with rifles and handguns and 22s, and honestly, because of the circumstances, it doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously the results can be catastrophically different, but I'm just saying, even a little 22, there's no safe ND because of obviously the definition of it, right? It's you're not prepared and all that kind of stuff. So it's super. And if it isn't literally dangerous, like, you could just scares the shit out of somebody where they drop a knife onto their jugular or something. Like a lot of times I'm hanging jugular or knives over my jugulars when people are playing with their guns.
I usually try to keep the knives away from my jugular when I'm planning on a negligent discharge.
That's like a negligent something else, not a discharge when it's a knife, though.
Does anybody say any? What is their name for it when you cut yourself with a knife? It's just not even a name. That happens so much, right?
It's called the emergency room trip.
Yeah,
I can
Gary
tell
knows
you
all about
that
that
from
lately.
experience.
I've had one of those negligent cuttings before. It also gives you a new respect for kitchen knives when you cut the top of your finger off enough to get stitches.
My reaction was just like obnoxious one. As soon as I did, it's like, that was stupid.
Yeah, mine was too. And then I stuck it underneath the water faucet and rinsed it out, and that was stupid also.
Mm-hmm.
It really hurt.
It did.
Ooh, getting a knife cut, you mean?
Yep.
I took a kitchen knife and was trying to pry a paint roller cover off a paint roller that was dried on there and cut the whole top of my knuckle off and had to get like 6 stitches in it. It was like flopping around. Not pleasant.
So what you're saying is we should talk about common sense knife control then.
Yeah, probably.
Nobody needs a knife.
And what are the rules of using a knife? Always cut away from the body.
Mhm.
Don't use a
What
steak
was
knife
I
to fry.
doing when I cut myself? I was cutting towards my body. And I knew better. I work in a workplace where they do these posters, we have a safety manual, all that crap. If anybody should know better, I should know better. And it happened to me.
I mean, back on the negligent discharge, I've never really had I guess it was kind of a negligent discharge one time. I sat down at my shooting bench, and this has been 3 or 4 years ago, and had a 270 rifle sitting on it. I was sighting it in. Anyways, and reached down and grabbed a hold of it, and I had done something stupid and cut the trigger spring, so it was a really light trigger. And as I grabbed a hold of it, it went off, but it was in the lead sled, so it was pointed at the target. So, I mean, but it was kind of that. I was sitting down in the process of it, fixing to shoot it. I just stood up to get a drink right behind it and stepped right back down.
But even then, again, even in that circumstance, in other words, you're at the range, it's pointed at a target, like it's literally bolted into a bracket that lets you kind of determine if that helps you sight it in. Basically, it's connected to the thing. Like you couldn't even pick it up; you'd have to pick up this whole thing. So in that case, you had the spring set so light that when you touched it, it went off. But even in that circumstance, the only thing that could be worse than that if somebody was downrange checking targets, that would be horrible.
Yeah, I mean, but it was on my private property,
right.
And I mean, I was the only one there.
But again, best possible scenario for like the safest possible ND in the world, and it probably scared the shit out of you.
Oh yeah, it did.
You're gonna remember that.
And I was literally already sitting down, and I'd turned around. I'd already taken the safety off and had it ready, and I was just pouring off sweat hot. And I turned around, and my tailgate was right behind me, and kind of just halfway stood up, grabbed my bottle of water off the tailgate, and sat back down. Took a drink, and then had taken a drink, and then went to set back down. When I did, I put my hand on the gun and just barely bumped the trigger. Needless to say, I changed that spring back to a factory spring.
I describe that because I remember one we were at I don't remember what kind of match it was. Probably IDPA. That's what I shoot most back when I was shooting. But it was some kind of an IDPA-ish type of match, some kind of an action match at that PCC. Anyway, at the club up here in town. And this one time I can remember there was like massive noise. It wasn't at the state match, but it was a pretty big match. It was at least a full match. Like a lot of people were there because I can remember there was gunshots going off all around. And that's not the hugest range in the world. It's actually kind of small. So when these gunshots are going off all around, they're all around us. And you guys have been at ranges before where somebody's doing something in the next bay over and all the steel hitting or the rounds hitting steel or something, maybe hitting a rock even. You'll be sitting there changing targets in one bay and there's a giant berm between you. So it's not like you're going to get hit, but every once in a while something will come flying down at you or come whizzing across, somehow just the right trajectory and something comes whizzing by, but not enough to kill you or anything. But just to remember that these are projectiles that have to go somewhere with all that energy. And I can remember in a situation like that where we're in close proximity to other bays where live fire is going on. There's lots of commotion and noise, and it's all gunshots. This lady was doing something like I was kind of describing that before. She was getting ready, doing her like muscle memory little thing where you get your gun ready to go, and bam, and that was like 8 people standing right there. I don't know if you've seen, like, you can imagine a small shooting range with small bays and 8 people getting ready to watch each other, run through the bay or whatever, run through the set of skills or whatever. And she's getting ready to load, or she's loading, getting ready to run the match, and bang. And it went, again, like kind of like Snob, she was pointing it at the side of the berm. I mean, it couldn't have been safer, but still, it's unmistakable to have something like that happen at the wrong time. There's no way to mistake that. Is that the word? Like, that it just happened, and it makes everybody wise up real quick. Like, oh snap, we're not just, we got really dangerous tools here. And what are you going to do? Like, everybody knows. You just kind of all look at each other like, yep, like, what are you going to do? Like, there's no point in nobody that tell her. In fact, she was probably older than all of us. You're not going to tell her, like, hey, you're not supposed to do that. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, because normally there's no one harder on you for doing that than yourself.
Yeah, that's the best way to sum it up. So, don't want you to beat yourself up, and don't let anybody else beat you up. There's no right or wrong way to do nothing. We work with dangerous things. All we can do is get better and learn and share, right? So.
Yep, and like I said, that was the whole purpose of doing it. Putting the video out wasn't going to teach me anything. I'd already learned.
I'll get into that. Outcast saying many years ago, a boss busted out some pricey SG and a beer. What does that mean? And after 10 minutes, the next day, someone put around into what's an SG? Oh, shotgun and a beer for a few of us. After 10 minutes, I thought it was better to leave. The next guy, the guys were limping. Somebody put a round into the rock we were standing on. All of them, for some reason, lost their original jobs. Oh, yeah, that'll happen. Very well. Anything else? It's 10 o'clock here. That means it's 1 a.m.? No.
Yep.
Yeah, 1 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yes, sir. And I can hear the dogs whining, so I think I'm gonna pop out and let them out before I've got another mess to clean up. Other than the one I created.
Yep, thanks for sharing it. And sounds like you already dug it out of the wall. You know that it didn't like hit something important or whatever. The electric's fine. You're not have like a house fire starting or anything.
No, I opened up where it went in, and it went in right underneath the electric box, but it missed the wires, and like I said, it dimpled the drywall on the other side, and it fell down into the cavity. So I'm debating on whether I want to put another hole down at the bottom and try and get the round, or just keep the casing here to remind me.
And on that note, next Saturday at 1, we're doing a live tutorial on how to patch drywall.
How big a hole did you put? You couldn't just stick a light and look in that hole, see if there's anything going on?
No, it was. If it had been further away from the outlet, I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably wouldn't have opened it up, but I just wanted to make sure it didn't hit the wires because it was right under the outlet.
Oh yeah, but I'm just thinking it looked like a big enough hole. If you should have shined a light in there, you'd be able to tell. Because I mean, unless they wired your house to go down to an outlet, there's no way there's anything under that. I wouldn't think. But again, yeah, I think you could just look in there and see if there was a down from out of that junction.
Yeah, it was coming down from the junction. So.
But you opened a big ass hole in the wall now?
Yeah, it's probably 3 inches by 6 inches just to see in there. So it's nothing big. I'll put a piece, just take a piece of wood that's a little bigger than the hole, and you screw it in from the top and bottom, and then put a piece of drywall over that and screw it in and patch it up. It'll be fine.
No. You totally just get a big sticker off gearwebsites.com and stick it over it.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if I would go with. I guess it depends where that's at. I don't know if I would go to all the trouble of screw. And I guess it doesn't cost nothing to screw stuff in there. I just don't want to have to patch the screw hole. So I would think I would probably just do adhesive, put a piece of block in there, and then mud. Snob, would you use screws?
If it's 3x6, I probably would, and just
3x6.
tape it in and fix it right.
I mean, if it was in the middle of a wall somewhere, sure, because you don't know what somebody's going to come on. But am I wrong? That's like an inch above your countertop and like an inch below. I mean, it's like you're never going to like want to put a poster there or something. Like it's just this little dead spot in the wall between your counter and your light switch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could actually make a hot patch out of one. You just cut you a piece of sheetrock that same size, only cut it bigger, and then you cut the backing off and leave just the front on.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Except I'd take like a piece of duct tape or something and stick it back there, and then just stick that piece really close to the right size, maybe like a little bit, and then just mud that in.
Yeah.
You shit though. All right. Well, so are you really do a thing, or you know how to fix drywall? You're not doing you already know how to fix drywall then?
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a little bit of drywall.
I was just giving him fits.
It's not going to be bad. It's just a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. So thanks for having me in, G. I'm going to go let the dogs out, and I'll catch you guys probably tomorrow.
I am going to put some drywall mud in an envelope and mail it to him. Just some raw drywall mud in the envelope.
Powder? So
no, I'm going to send mud. No, I don't want to send powder. The postal inspector will be knocking on my door. No, it's quick set, I promise.
Look, right. No, don't eat it.
I'll catch you guys later.
Yep, later.
New York is saying it was off topic. He was talking about that thing I mentioned a minute ago with the shotgun and the beers. It was off topic, but it makes a good point about mixing guns, beer, and work. Man, I hear you, but we're free people and we do a lot of dangerous stuff, and we drink beers at the same time. So as dangerous as it sounds to go out and do stuff, I don't even think there's a way to know. Didn't we just hear something in some story about some article or some Instagram things going around how many hunters there are compared to some other militaries or something? Like we've got more hunting permits in this country than there is people in the military or something. I thought I saw something about like hunting permits.
I saw a meme or something, or one of those things like that the other day about that.
And that could just be something that like
every
year
make the largest military in the world.
Something like that. And that's just makes me think like how long? I mean, we've had, I don't know what came first. Beer had to come first, I guess, and then guns came around. But I guarantee by the time there was 10 guns on this planet, somebody was drinking a beer and playing with a gun. I just guarantee it. It happened. We've had too long where people have gotten or drinking beer, or whatever you want to call getting drunk. You don't really get drunk every time you drink a beer, but you know what I'm saying? We've been comfortable with alcohol, and we've literally been comfortable with guns since the entire country. I remember when I was a kid, at least, it wasn't like people didn't care about safety. They understood it and they respected life and stuff, but they also drank heavily at deer camp. Like that was a thing you did. So to suggest that beers and guns can't mix is just not correct. So I'm not suggesting everyone needs to drink a beer to shoot or anything, obviously, but I just want to throw that out there that the accidents are bad and you learn lessons from them, but you can't forget the 365 days, the millions of gun owners, and the hundreds of years that have existed without problems with beers and negligent discharges and all the rest of it. But yeah, when you're talking about at work, that's a little bit different, I guess. I just wanted to throw that out there that let's not, we get carried away sometimes, and next thing, I don't want to be some kind of message that you can't have fun and own guns at the same time. Pants was saying the same thing, that Snob said, Pink is out there. I thought it was, we have more hunters than the Chinese army, which is the largest standing army in the world. That's not possible, Pink. They have multitudes from whenever the last time I looked, which was years ago now, so it could be wrong. Damn it. There are more Chinese men between 18 and 36 than there are people in our country. So there's no possible way that our hunters, which is a subset of our country, could be larger than their entire army, because their entire army is more than just the men. So I don't think so. Although that's every man of military age, not necessarily the army. So I guess it's possible, but I just don't think it adds up.
I was thinking, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I was thinking it said something to the effect of our hunters are the largest, if they were an army, they'd be the largest army in the world or something.
And honestly, it doesn't really matter for what the point is of that meme or whatever. It makes sense that like there's an uncountable number of people that are comfortable with going out and harvesting some critters if they have to, because that counts birds and deers and pigs, and I guess not fish, but it probably counts alligators and things like that.
What if you're shooting a fish with a harpoon gun? Then it counts.
I don't think they call it hunting for fish even when you're shooting them or something, right? Because there are some fish you shoot, sharks and things. You're still catching a shark, I think. But I think you hunt for alligators. Do you hunt for snakes? People that go out and try to kill snakes? I think that's still called hunting.
I hunt for them every time I walk around where there might be one. Just so I don't get anywhere near it.
How many rattlesnakes you got in Oklahoma? How many types?
I don't know how many types. I haven't killed one in a few years, but I killed one right outside my back porch one year, and that was pretty scary because he was a smaller one. And Stacy actually almost stepped on him walking in the house.
Yeah, out here they don't rattle so much anymore. I'm sure some do, but most of them that are around people don't rattle anymore. Because they figured out they get killed when they rattle. All right, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I got a lecture from my kids the other day because I cut the head off a little ring snake that was in my yard, but he shouldn't have been there.
What, the coral snake looking thing?
Yeah, I'm not a snake fan. He was green and
black and white.
Green and black. I don't know what he was really. He was some little grass snake, garter snake, ring snake, something. He was a snake, so he died.
Whatever. Snakes are saving us from bubonic plague.
Well, they can save us on somebody else's property. Them and armadillos are going to die if I get a chance.
All right. For some reason, I wrote you point, but I think I meant to write good point, so I must be getting tired. And I was going to say we've taken it all over the place tonight. So that was a bit of a show. I'm not going to guarantee a show every night, but I'll try to do them whenever we can. And again, thanks to the people that bought a bunch of crap off of Yankee, because like I say, he paid for the shipping, so I didn't have to take that out of my pocket at all. And he gave me a cut on top, so it actually made it possible for me to do some stuff this week like this. So I'll be back, and I try to be back tomorrow, depending on how things go. Thank Gary for jumping in, being part of a show in the middle of the night for him. And Snob, I guess you guys share a time zone over there, same time for you.
Yeah, we hang out in real time.
Yep.
We're trying to get Gizzard Gary here to SHOT Show, and they have some kind of draconian craziness. And while we're efforting to educate them on the real deal, you could effort towards getting Gary to SHOT Show by simply going over to the YouTube and clicking on Gary's channel. And I will go grab a link to that unless somebody has it quicker. And we're trying to get Gary to 1,000 subs. So if you've got more than one channel, or you know people that are willing to sub to a channel like Gary's that offers decent content based on or focused on guns, then finally found the link. Go ahead and please share it around. No, thanks, Gary. So give him a sub and share it around, and we can SHOT Show that numbers are an insignificant piece of what makes someone worthy of being at the industry's trade show.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for doing what you're doing, Gary. And yeah, you've got 2 live shows a week, and you could maybe list. Well, we can talk about that if we have to. But anyway, Snob, you're going. You said you got your
Sure, yeah.
right on. And you had a media pass last year and weren't able to go, or this is your first year?
No, this is my first year ever getting one. I got denied last year too because I did not have 1,000 subscribers last year at this time.
Okay, so you had something similar. How many were you at last year?
Oh, I was under 300 when I applied.
Okay, so Snob was under 300, and around this time last year, and they told him, "Go pound sand. You mean nothing to us." And now it's Oklahoma's gun snob. He's got professional relationships with places. He's knows people in the know, and he's got welcome open arms to SHOT Show now. So it just takes some effort and a little bit of consistency, motivation. Boom, you're there. Got whatever you want. That's how the world works. So there's no magic. Just keep doing it. And thanks for supporting people that support the kind of stuff you like to watch, I guess. Thanks again for Gary and Snob and Obnoxious sharing his thing. And thanks everybody for showing up. I'll quit thinking people. We'll end that stream. There we go.